Hey everyone, welcome to our third episode of WWM Marketer, a podcast that seeks to spark authentic and meaningful conversations with marketers from all over the world. Today we'll be having Charley, or you might know him as the Facebook Disruptor. We talk about his journey within the Facebook space, all the way from USA. Welcome to the pod, Charles.
Hi, man. How you doing? Yeah, from sunny very sunny Los Angeles, California, man. Nice to see you.
Well, I'm all the way from sunny Melbourne, so good to hear that we are vibing right off at the bat. So,
Yeah.
Charles, I wanted to ask, so to people who are not familiar with you, what would you do an elevator pitch for yourself in Facebook ads?
Yeah. The easiest way of doing it is I'm one of the top 100 Facebook advertisers in the world. Or technically top 100 in the United States, but at least half of those other people are students of mine. My clients and students have done in the billions in revenue. I've personally managed many hundreds of millions of dollars. Not like I have an agency where some employee does this. Like I've lost sleep over the number of commas I've put into like the ads manager. And you know, I've spent well over $1 million in a day. Yeah, I've been around since the very beginning of Facebook ads for over a decade now. And I've basically been on every side of it, running big agencies, running big businesses, and teaching people for a long time. And pretty much what I do is try to help folks understand how to use Facebook as a tool to grow their business. And generally speaking, that means that what I'm doing is several years ahead of what most people say you should do, because my motivation isn't commission on your ad spend, because I don't really care. My motivation is your success so you can create jobs and independence. And that more or less puts me as an outsider in my peer group, because at best, most people are copying the advice meant for the average person to be successful, but I don't want to be the average person. I want to know exactly what to do, and I challenge myself every day with ridiculously high ad spends to redefine best practices. I don't know. That's the shortest I can probably get. Is I've spent an ungodly amount of money, and for many, many years, I've basically defined how to use it, and I've worked with the engineers and product teams at Facebook to make the tool better for a long time. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's a killer end, man. Really love the end. I work with Facebook. Boom. What can you say, man?
So I should have just led with the outro there.
Yeah, you could definitely use it for your intro, man, and outro. So I just want to ask as well to people who are very new. Since I saw your content, you're very diving deep into like different concepts. I wanted to know, how do you actually get started with Facebook? What got you on with this journey?
Yeah, for me personally, I used to be a radio DJ and a touring musician, although I still play in bands and music all the time. I moved out to LA from Florida, and I got a job in social media at the time before there was really Facebook ads. Like, it didn't really exist. And it was like organic growth hacking and all of that stuff. And I figured out a way to basically automate all my work. So I was doing the work of like 10 people because I was really, really good at it. Now all the tools exist, and like what I was doing isn't terribly innovative, but at the time, like 10 years ago, it was really smart. And I was doing really, really well. I got fired from an agency. I started my own agency. I did a lot of other things. My biggest client, though, about 10 years ago, fired me one day. And we're still friends, but my biggest client fired me. He was paying me about $2,000 a month. And he said, I just put in $100 into Facebook ads, and it did more for me than the $2,000 I pay you. And he's like, moving forward, I'm going to pay out my contract, but I don't need you to work anymore. And basically the next day I put my credit card into Facebook and started running ads. Within 3 months, I was the head paid Facebook ads guy at a small agency. Within 6 months, I was running stuff for like Jamba Juice and Viking River Cruises and some like big, more international brands. And within like 9 months of that, I was spending like $1 million a day for brands like Nissan and Levi's and Activision and CBS Television, which is like BBC 2 in the United States, you know?
Yep, I love it.
and yeah, it took off pretty quickly because I was the only person in the room that knew what was going on. And often I was willing to say, yeah, I can do that. Sure. And then somebody gave me a big check and I'd have to figure it out. But I just put myself in better and better rooms. And honestly, for the first year or two, I don't think I had a job for more than 6 or 9 months. And it was because I kept getting fired or I kept getting my boss's job next door. If that makes any sense. Like there's a bunch of ad agencies right next to each other. And I kept getting either fired from jobs or like hired away from wherever I was working to go be the next senior position, you know, in a competing space. And that really was my story for years. So I had the luxury of working for a lot of folks that were really good, but all thought about things differently, which I think has given me a very well-rounded position. And now, like, you know, a decade has gone by, but that was a great start.
That's very interesting. And I remember you mentioned before in the videos that you actually did the first lead gen ad in Facebook, right, for Nissan.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. We did the first one. At the time, Nissan, part of my contract was that I had to do a certain amount of what we call alphas on a regular basis. So an alpha basically means Facebook is trying some new type of ad.
Oh.
And they need somebody to test it. So Nissan's contract with the agency was, we want you to be innovative. You have to do at least 3 or 4 of these a year. Like you have to.
Oh. Ooh.
And so, you know, it's time coming up where I need to launch one. And at the time, there was one Facebook rep for everybody in America, like west of the Mississippi River. So basically the entire western half of the United States had like one guy that was the Facebook rep. That's a few people were spending money on ads. And he came to me with hey, we're looking for somebody to do this new lead gen thing. And I was like, well, Nissan says I have to do it. And you're saying you need somebody to do it. I'll give it a shot. And the bright idea that hit me like while showering or something one day was, why don't I try to do lead gen ads to get people to go test drive a car? Why don't I make it so the car dealership they like, hey, great, you want to like lead gen? That lead goes to the car dealership. They contact you and set up a day. That was the idea. I was like, why not? Seems like it could work. And 1 out of 2 people that took the lead gen ad bought a car. So the conversion rate was like 50%. And it took us like, long story short, I think it cost me about $50 to get a lead. So it was $100 to sell a $25,000 vehicle. So the ROAS was like 250.
Whoa.
Yeah, which is nonsense. Because there's no way that lead is why somebody bought that car. It was just like a thing that like it worked out. That's another reason why like ROAS is nonsense. But yeah, like the first lead gen ad was $1 million spent at a 250x. And it worked. Now, mind you, we didn't actually make $250 million, but it looked nice on paper. Yeah. In theory, yeah. In theory, it worked great. And now pretty much every car dealership that I know has somebody that's what they do for a living. Like that's part of their job. They're just on the internet trying to set up test drives, which is cool.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Well, I will definitely segue into ROAS a little bit later on, but I wanted to focus on explaining towards people who are very new to Facebook ads, and they've always been talking about this specifically for audience targeting. There have been a lot of theories and also circulations about rumors like how can you hack the algorithm. So
sure.
Before that, I want to get into the basics first before going to the nitty gritty. So my first question will be revolving around the targeting aspect. So could you explain to others what is an interest targeting, what is a broad targeting, and what is a retargeting? So these are the 3 parts.
I love it. So interest targeting.
Yes.
About 10 years ago, Facebook, when they were just starting out, tried to get folks that were really good at Google to come over to Facebook as another way to use ads. And at the time, there was no Facebook Pixel. It ran just like Google, like it was pay-per-click. It was the same thing. Now, Google has these things called affinity audiences. So Facebook was like, okay, well, we're not going to call it an affinity audience. We'll call it a interest group. Same exact technology, same exact thinking. Just like an act-alike audience on Google is a look-alike audience on Facebook. Exact same thing, but they're going to call it a slightly different thing to be a little bit different.
Got you.
So the idea was that if somebody talked about something a lot, they were interested in it. Just like an affinity is like, oh, this person searches for this thing a lot. They have an affinity for that thing, right?
Yeah.
So they made the opportunity to target these interest groups. Now, back in the day, they would tell you how much that interest group cost. Because if you use interest group targeting, it does cost extra. It's a premium thing. Like it's like getting guacamole on something or like, whatever it is, right? Like, I don't know. Guac is extra is a fun joke here. I don't know if that translates to Melbourne, but the idea, it's an option, right? It's a customization, right? It's like getting a custom color or something like that. So you paid extra to get this audience. And the idea was at the time, it was a lot smarter than Facebook just randomly showing ads to people. It's like, oh, we're going to show this to people that are interested in dogs or fishing or whatever it was.
Right.
Now, the thing is, about 5 years ago, Facebook changed the way they run their algorithm to something they call OCPM, optimized CPM.
Okay.
Which basically leads into what broad targeting is. So they launched this thing in Power 5 called advanced matching, which is letting you tap into all of the data from every advertiser. And basically what it is now Facebook was saying, instead of saying everybody, this is the 500,000 people in your audience that care about dogs. Instead of randomly showing to that 500,000 people, what we're going to do instead is say, who's most interested in dogs, but more importantly, who likes the type of content that you're putting out there? People that like the types of videos that you make. People that have responded positively to your webpage or to your competitors. There's a time where I was running New Balance, not the business, the ad account. I wasn't actually like CEO of New Balance. So I want to make sure I'm phrasing that properly. Yeah. I just don't want to take credit for work I didn't do. And what we noticed was in the testing, and we saw the same thing with Nissan, we were retargeting our competitors. So, and Facebook can show us this on the back end. If somebody engaged with a Nike ad or went to Reebok, an abandoned cart, or was like checking out some Vans or some Chuck Taylors, that person was way more receptive to the New Balance sneaker ad. So Facebook's algorithm was focusing them like, oh, you wanted some red trainers. Well, you just were on Nike, Reebok, Vans, Converse, Adidas. You were just on all of those websites. You want to see red shoes. Here's an ad from other companies with red shoes because clearly you're interested in it. We're going to show it to you. And ultimately what happened is interest groups, Facebook stopped supporting them entirely. Like there's not a team of engineers that's working on Facebook, on interest groups. Like that department doesn't exist.
It's closed down?
Like it just, those engineers don't have that job anymore. They're working on other things.
Okay.
Because ultimately interest groups are obsolete technology. So the idea of if you're interested in something, I'm going to show it to you was better than I'm going to show this ad to everyone and hope it hits the right person. Of course.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But now every ad understands who likes that ad and who doesn't. So if I send out an ad and that ad reaches 1,000 people and 500 people love it and 500 people hate it, the next 1,000 people that ad's going to get shown to are going to look a lot like the 500 people that liked it. Right, because they like, and Facebook's business model is to show people content that they want to see. Because Facebook's business is basically like their entire business is the retaining of attention, time on site. How long are you in the app or on the website? Well, you stay longer if there's content that you're interested in. So interest groups we're not nearly as good at showing the right content to the right person as broad targeting, which is age, gender, and location. Broad targeting, those are the only three things that you can add into targeting that don't cost extra.
Right.
Everything else comes at a tax.
Like a premium.
So, yeah, it's a premium. So now your ad is making its own bespoke lookalike audience based off of how the people like it.
Right.
So every ad creates its own targeting audience based on who responded well to that ad. So broad targeting is basically saying, I'm not going to pay extra to prevent that ad from being shown to the right person. I think there's still this thinking, though, that people say, well, broad targeting is just, well, anybody. So I'm just going to show it to everyone. No, it's not going to get shown to everyone. It's saying that every woman over the age of 18 that lives in Australia, if she is the right person to see this ad, we're not going to pay extra to make sure that person doesn't see it. That's sort of the thing. Like, you have to think of, because interest groups basically exclude people from being able to see an ad.
Oh, isn't it from newcomers' perspective? The question we might ask is, when I first came in, our question is, our understanding of interest targeting is, let's say I want people who like shoes. Wouldn't that Facebook be programmed to show people who only like shoes? And you're saying it's the contradictory side of it?
Sort of. Let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
First off, about 1/3 of the audience that's in the interest group is just there by error. Like the accuracy of an interest group is 60 to 70%.
Wow, 60%, and I'm paying extra for it.
Yeah. So let's call it 2/3. Let's be fair. 2/3, 66%. There's a lot of studies. It's usually between like 60, 65, 70%. Let's call it 2/3 for the simplicity of math.
Yeah.
Now, if you really don't like something, like say you went out to a restaurant and you had a really bad experience, do you tell people about your bad experience?
Not really.
So
actually, you do if you hate it.
Yeah, like if you're like, oh, this was terrible.
This sucks.
Yeah. But you're talking about it. So you're interested in it.
Oh.
So the point here is potentially half of that audience is people that don't like the thing. For instance, what if you're a big cat lover and you hate dogs? And you joke about how much you hate dogs all the time. You're interested in dogs. It's not a positive or negative sentiment. You're just interested in that thing. So,
okay.
So 1/3 of that audience isn't any good anyway. And then maybe half the people that are left actually feel bad about what you have to say. So that means at best, 1/3 of that interest group feels positively. Now, how many of them are actually interested in making a purchase? Like maybe I love dogs, but I can't have a pet. And I talk about them all the time. So you just keep giving me ads for dog food. I don't have dogs. I mean, I have 2 dogs. But the point is like, maybe you just love really high-end sports cars, right? Like you're all about like RX-7s and mods and Porsches and BMWs and stuff, but you drive a scooter. You talk about it all the time and you're watching videos all the time. You're interested in high-end sports cars. So you're in that interest group. It does me no good as a marketer to try to sell you a Ferrari if the best you can do is buy a used moped, even if you're interested in Ferraris every day. So instead, if I know that my ads appeal to a certain person and I'm saying, show my ads to everybody that might be interested in this type of content. Also, please optimize towards those who are going to purchase. Now, instead of it being a very small percentage of hopefully the people that have shown enough signals recently to Facebook that they're talking about something, because like also I might not talk about something, but I'm looking to buy it. Like that happens, right?
True.
So now instead of paying extra to focus after 1/3 of a smaller audience and what of that 1/3 might want to buy from you, instead you're saying, I'm willing to pay less. I'm going to pay lower CPMs, much lower cost. I'm going to let this ad be shown to anybody that's going to like this ad or that's going to experience this ad content well. And generally speaking, the people that want to see that content are probably the folks that have engaged positively with other content like it. Now, if it's an ad for me selling something and you don't want to buy, you probably don't like that content.
Yeah.
But again, to the sneakers, maybe you've clicked on 4 ads, 2 from Nike, another from Reebok, and something from Adidas. You're actively in the sneaker market. Maybe you've added a cart. You've left a few add to cart and view content pixel fires on your competitor's webpage.
Yeah.
At broad targeting, I can retarget somebody. You could put an ad that say, I'm selling red sneakers. Somebody come to my site, abandon cart 3 times, but not buy from me. You, with broad targeting, would effectively be able to retarget that person that left my store, because Facebook knows every time I show somebody an ad about red sneakers, they're interested. And you can make the sale. But, like, for instance, I just bought my wife a birthday present. I'm not talking about the present I bought her. I don't give a shit about this thing. It's like a couple $100, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not in that interest group.
That makes sense. It's like something you just thought out of the blue. You're not necessarily scrolling around Facebook looking for the product. That's not how it works.
But because I went to a couple websites, I did some shopping for a few days. My ads all started to look like the thing that I was looking for. So Facebook was actually doing me as a user a really nice favor. Like, I don't have to think about it. Every time I'm on my phone, oh, boom, here's all this stuff. Like, if I'm ready to buy, here's all the things.
Right.
And when you look at the targeting on those ads, because you can see that inside, like the insights, or whatever, everyone that I got was broad. I never got an interest group target. I never got a retargeting audience hit. And you know what? Somebody made a sale that was like $400. But if they had used women over a certain, like if they had used people that are interested in this thing and then retargeting me off the website and like beat me over the head with it, they would have gotten nothing.
Right. So it's a wasted ad spend for just to exclude people that they don't even know whether or not they are really showing any interest, really love for the product. It could be hate. Yeah.
And at a higher level, I feel like I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. But I'll end with this. Okay, fair enough. I just want to be mindful. At a higher level, what you pay in the algorithm, the bid, what you pay for a conversion,
right,
is built off of budget, estimated action rate, and advertiser score. Those are the 3 things we need to be mindful of.
Yeah.
Now, because we didn't talk about retargeting, so I kind of want to address that real quick.
Yes. Yeah.
So if I'm retargeting somebody, like you've been to my site, cool, I'm going to just beat you over the head with my ads until you buy.
Yeah, just keep retargeting.
I just made that purchase from your competitor.
Ooh.
Now, every time I see an ad, it's giving me a bad experience, right? So I might be in your retargeting audience for 30 days. Now, here's the problem. If you're paying extra, because the CPMs on retargeting might be 2-3 times that of like a broad audience or something like that, right? Like they're usually higher, right? Maybe you're paying 15, maybe you're paying 15, 20 for a broad and you're paying like 50. I'm just throwing random numbers out there. Just keep the math simple.
Yeah.
I know everywhere in the world's a little bit different. Just to keep the math together. Here's the thing. The more you retarget me, the more Facebook sees you heavily investing and giving their users a bad experience. You're a bad business partner because I don't want to see the ad.
Right.
How many other people are in your retargeting audience that already made the decision not to buy from you? How much money are you spending on a regular basis to basically tell your business partner, Facebook, that you don't care about their customers? Because broad is doing retargeting anyway. Who's the person most likely to buy? Well, probably somebody that just abandoned cart on my site yesterday.
Yeah,
of course, they're very interested. Now, what if they purchase? Well, they're probably less interested, right?
Yeah.
And Facebook knows that. But if that person's in my retargeting audience and I'm just smashing them over and over and over again, regardless, whether I bought from your competitor or not, if you don't see me from buying from you, now this retargeting audience is just investing really heavily and positioning you as a really bad business partner to Facebook. And I'll be honest, whether I'm spending $50 a day or in some accounts I'm spending 50 to 70,000 a day, I use almost no retargeting at all. Like
Right.
it might, like it is, I will use it strategically. Like I'll use dynamic product ads. Like if you have abandoned cart, I'll show you my catalog. That's a good use. Or if you came to my site and didn't want to buy this pen for $5, that's an expensive pen, or maybe cheap pen, depending on how much you pay for pens. I don't know. I haven't bought them. This is swag from a convention. I don't buy pens anymore. This is Integrated Tax Consultants. I don't know who these people are, but ITC. Cool.
Yeah, could be a good brand.
Yeah, might be good people. Who knows? Shout out to Integrated Tax Consultants LLC.
ITC.
Great. Yeah, right? Say this pen is $5 and you don't want it.
Yeah.
What if I said buy 3, get 1 free? You didn't want one, but I'll give you the opportunity to buy 3 of them and the 4th one's free. $5, you're like, I don't know. I can get one for $4. I don't really care. But get 4 of them for $15. Now all of a sudden it's a value.
Right.
Have you ever seen an infomercial like Ginsu knives? They show you the knife.
Yeah.
And you're like, that knife is cool. And if they were to tell you, hey, cool, this knife is $30, you're like, I don't know if I need to spend $30 on a knife.
Yeah.
But then they show you all of the other things that you get, right? You get the thing that cuts a fish. I don't know why there's always like the fillet knife that goes in there. There's like the bigger one where they can chop like a shoe. And then they go to the tomato. There's like all the other things. And you get that plus an extra one. And then like a box that it all comes in and like a little bundle. And now it's 3 easy payments at $39.99. I wasn't going to give you 30. But I might give you 120 for 2 sets of all of this wonderful stuff. So in that case, it's called a rebuttal upsell. It's what happens at minute 8 in every infomercial. Just infomercial time. I learned this from the woman that invented the concept of, but wait, there's more. She wrote that as infomercial, which is wild. Like I remember I said I got to work for like really cool people because I kept getting fired and hired by all these random places. I just got to work with that woman. Her name's Marina Randolph. She's brilliant. Shout out to Marina Randolph.
You're awesome.
Anyway, yeah, right. Like she basically invented buy one, like she didn't, but like it's like free shipping or something like something that like beautiful, right? My point is, sometimes the reason people don't buy from me is because it's not enough value. So when I'm retargeting, I want to show you the product that you're interested in, or maybe other ones with DPA ads, or I'm going to show you more value. But I'm never going to have a dedicated retargeting audience showing you the same thing as what I'm showing you at broad. Because all it's going to do is steal some sales from my broad, which makes my broad dumber. And I'm going to pay more for it. Like maybe that conversion is cheaper. My ROAS is better or something.
Yeah.
But I could have also gotten that exact same sale in this other audience, probably for the same price. Because if you look throughout the day, it's like, oh, my average today was $37. Okay. But if you look, like some of them are like $2, some are like 80, right? Like if you look at the cost of each one, they're wildly different. Like if you go to break down by day, by hour of the day, each hour might be $100, might be $5. So some of those conversions are super cheap. Some are really expensive. That retargeting audience conversion is happening for cheaper at broad anyway. So you don't have to necessarily focus on it in the same way. Now, there are obviously some people, if you just beat them over the head with something over and over again until they buy, that might work.
But it's annoying.
Yeah, it's really annoying. How many people are you going to really piss off because they say, no, leave me alone, and you show up 3 times a day for the next month trying to sell them something? Like, if it was a door-to-door salesman that came by your house 3 times a day to try to sell you some vacuum cleaner, like, you'd hate them.
I would piss. I'll be like, go away, man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But as Facebook marketers, we do that all the time. Like that's thought of as like a best practice. And where I come from, once the engineers explained that to me, I was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. And what I saw was phenomenally better performance. Because, and the last thing that I'll get to with all of this, and I know I'll probably spend 30 minutes on a 5-minute topic, and I apologize.
No, it's good. It's necessary for people who are new.
Right on. Awesome.
This episode was created for people who are new to Facebook. And I want to make sure we all start off on the right foundation, because I started off in the wrong foundation, misinterpreting how these basic things works that led to me making a lot of mistakes. And I want to make this right by making sure they are on the right course before we talk about the nitty-gritty part.
I love it. I love it.
Let's go on.
So I'll finish with this thing.
Yeah.
When you're doing retargeting or interest groups, when you're paying extra to reach people,
Yeah.
that means your money is reaching less people. We're kind of on that makes sense, right?
Yeah, makes sense. You're paying for a smaller pool, essentially.
Yeah, and you're paying more money to reach fewer people. Like the CPMs are higher cost and your frequency is probably higher. So you're reaching fewer people more often. You're paying more money for that privilege.
And they might not even want to buy. They might get annoyed.
Yeah, right? So my point to that is, that means there are fewer people that are discovering your brand.
Yeah.
What that means is there's fewer people searching for you on Google. There's fewer people that see your ad that click on it, but they've got like ad blocking on.
Ooh,
There's fewer people that watch your video and just go to your website. There's fewer people signing up for your emails. There's fewer people doing all of the things where the exchange rate on our investment is a lot better than Facebook. Like on Facebook, let's use ROAS. I don't like ROAS, but let's just use it for the purpose of this conversation. Maybe my Facebook ROAS is at 1 or a 2.
Yeah. Yes.
My search might be a 10 or a 5. Like that's not uncommon, right? To see like a 3, a 4, or a 5 or something.
Yeah, Google search.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So my question then is, if I want to get the best investment for my money, is it best for me to try to do retargeting with Facebook where at best I might get a 2-to-1 exchange? Or maybe I get a 1-to-1 exchange, but I get twice as much search volume where I'm getting a 3, a 5, a 10-to-1. And outside of that, I'm also collecting a bunch of emails. And like, if it costs you a penny to send an email, your ROI might be like 100-to-1.
Yeah, that's true.
So when you're looking at Facebook, you can't look at ROAS on Facebook. And this is ultimately why I debunk ROAS, because I don't care. What I care about is how much money did I spend this week, this month, today? Versus how much money did I get back? And if I can use Facebook to amplify the volume of searches and the amount of email addresses I get, and what we've seen Google Analytics as direct organic, right? If I can use Facebook to make that number a lot bigger,
why not?
That means those emails, I'm getting 100-to-1 back. Or on search, I'm getting 8 to 10-to-1 back. I'm getting way more of that. And would I rather reach a few people and annoy the hell out of them to hopefully make a good ROAS on a couple $100 a day? Or would I want Facebook to basically break even, but spend $1,000 a day because I'm getting so many more emails and search volumes and getting customers that are coming in constantly? Like, that's a much, much better use of my money. So all of this put together is basically, again, Broad's reaching people for cheaper, giving them a better experience. It's doing the retargeting for you, and it's creating a lot of intent and market research that's letting you know how to get more people to search for you and to sign up for your emails and come to your website so that you can make that sale for a lot cheaper.
Interesting.
And that's sort of the whole thing kind of wrapped up in as simple of a ball, hopefully, as I can.
Yes, it is. It is very, it's much more simpler to interpret. I understand it's a very big topic that requires like 1 hour episode. And thank you so much for boiling it down in such a simple format. I think that's something interesting that I'd like to lead on from that is,
okay.
So you have mentioned that, like, for example, you can't show the ad too often, people get annoyed, right? So as marketers, sometimes, especially for new ones that are new into Facebook, you might hear marketers saying, oh, we can't have too high frequency, you need to refresh the ad. So my question is, how much can a single ad actually can sustain before it refreshes? And from there, how often should we refresh a copy on the ad itself?
Well, I'll start off. I've run ads for years.
Right.
I've got plenty of ads that have spent a couple $100,000
on one ad.
I've got ads that have spent I got one ad, and I think I put up a video of it a while ago, and it's like blowing up on YouTube right now. I'm getting like a bunch of YouTube short videos. But it's like, here's an ad that spent 1.8 million.
Whew, that's a lot. Wouldn't the frequency
Yeah, it's a
be
lot. What's that?
Wouldn't the frequency be sky high then? Very
No.
expensive?
No, because I'm targeting women in America. What if the frequency's 2? What if it's 3 over 6 months? What you're telling me is every 2 months, somebody's going to see this ad once. Do you think they even remember? What ads did you see today? I'll bet you if I really tried to push it, you'd remember 5% of the ads that you saw today.
Yeah, most probably. I'll be sick of it.
Maybe you saw 20, you might remember 1.
Yeah.
And it's probably because you saw that ad before already. So my point is, I don't care. That's the real answer. I don't care about frequency. Like, if in Facebook's infinite wisdom inside their algorithm says, hey, this person on average should see this ad more often, and it makes me money, great. My job isn't, I will say this, the concept of ad fatigue is nonsense.
Oh, really?
But it comes from the same place as ABO. It comes from the same place as cost cap bidding. It comes from the same place as
frequency caps?
Yeah, it comes from all of this, which is Google. The thing is, we're still dealing with it. When Facebook first started out 10 years ago, remember, I got into that room because everybody else was somebody that was good at Google. Nobody wanted to deal with Facebook.
Yeah, it's
Facebook made interest groups to try to copy Google.
Yeah.
Like, I was somebody that was in the business for like a year, and I was managing teams that had been working for like 5 years because I was like, well, I can run Facebook, and nobody knew how to do it. And it was literally just because I put my credit card in 6 months beforehand, right? So I was immediately the most qualified person in the room, which is stupid.
Professional.
It was just, it was good timing. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
I went to like an office. I was wearing like band t-shirts and like cowboy boots and like ripped up jeans, and everybody else had like dresses and sweater. You know, they all look professional. Like, I was a mess. When I go to the offices now, I still do the exact same thing. I walk around barefoot. I don't give a shit. Anyway, my point is, the way that we think about this, most of the really successful marketers over the last 20 years are email and search people, because those platforms have been around for longer.
Yeah.
And even when Facebook first came out, all the best thinkers were Google and email people, search and email people. And Facebook was built to attract those individuals. And only in 2017, 2018 did Facebook make a real fundamental shift to be different than treating it like everything else. So a lot of people got into Facebook in 2018, 2019, 2020.
Yeah, I got in 2019.
There you go. Most of the really popular people, most of the best thinkers were folks that got in before that shift, when you did think about it like Google. And most of them at that point had gotten to a place of seniority where they probably weren't doing most of the daily work. And they probably had clients who were so good, they didn't have to do good work. Like, I ran Activision. I made like, not the business again, the ad account. I keep like, what it's worth.
Just clarify.
Yeah. I probably made $5 million of mistakes during the launch of like a Call of Duty game in like 2014.
Wow.
Still the number one game on the market.
Yeah.
Right? I've probably made $20 million of mistakes with Nissan. They're still in business. A lot of ad agencies and a lot of big thinkers work with brands that they don't necessarily have to do that good of a job. And the brands are so complex that they can't even tell if the person's doing any good work.
Yeah, that's true.
So by the time a lot of this generation of marketer that we're talking about right now, like you, got into 2019, the people that were the well-established, good thinkers, people on stages and had good businesses, none of them were actually folks doing the work in the way that Facebook was designed, had evolved into. None of them were using broad targeting. None of them were abandoning retargeting. None of them were using dynamic ads because they got successful without them. And then the machine changed, but they weren't doing the work anymore. And so there's this big swing of everybody saying, oh, iOS 14 came out and Facebook doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
the actual truth is doing things in the 2016 way stopped working because Facebook leaned more and more and more into the advertisers that respect that business relationship. That the advertisers that said, you know what, Facebook, we understand that your customers are people that want to enjoy their time on Facebook. Instead of beating people over the head and coming and ringing the doorbell 3 times to sell a vacuum cleaner 3 times a day for like a month because somebody showed an interest once, we're just going to knock on the doors of people that want to buy. Those marketers have seen their CPMs drop and their performance skyrocket. I have a business where I have a women's clothing business. In January, our CPMs are about $35 in the United States, and we made about $200,000 in sales. In September, our CPMs are about $24, and we did $2 million in sales.
What? That's crazy.
I 10x spend. My CPMs went down.
That's interesting.
Because I was a better and better partner to Facebook. And all of my competitors leaned into doing things the wrong way. So who's getting the premium inventory? Because eventually, if you want to spend all that money and bother people, Facebook's not going to show it to you right when you open the app. Like when you get that frequency, remember we talked about the ads that you remember or maybe don't remember?
Yeah.
If it's the ad that shows up when you've been on the app for 20 minutes and you're just scrolling, oh, there's an ad, scrolling, that's an impression. But if when you open the app and it's the second thing that you see, you probably remember that a lot more. And that impression is worth a lot more money.
Yeah. That
impression, generally speaking, the one that decides whether somebody's going to stay on the platform and scroll for 20 minutes or just leave, it's probably one of an advertiser with an ad that person wants to see. So it's a broad targeting ad with a very low CPM. Because you're doing a better and better, you're just doing a better and better job of being a business partner. And to be fair, my click-through rate is tanked. It's so much worse.
Right.
Because instead of getting 100 clicks out of 1,000 impressions, I might be getting 5,000 clicks out of 20,000 impressions. Like, because my CPMs go down, the denominator in the fraction goes up. And I'm just reaching more and more people. But I'm also getting way more traffic to email. I'm getting way more search volume. So I'm getting way more money that I don't have to pay Facebook money to get, right? That email revenue and all that other stuff. Well, the first month, maybe those people buy. Maybe it takes them 2-3 months of being on the email list to buy. You do that for 9 months, 10 months. You're going to get more and more. You just wake up and that email makes, maybe it used to make $200. Now it makes 2,000 or 40,000. Right? Like, so you're growing the business by being a better partner. And that's, I think, a really big difference that most brands see. Like, I don't use cost caps. I don't use interest groups. I don't do retargeting. I do all dynamic ads at broad. And this campaign, this account, we'll probably do 2.5 million this month. We did 2 million last month. Like, I'll probably do 3 million or more in November. By the end of the year, I'll probably do a $4 or $5 million month. That's my goal. And I have no issue with doing that. And my frequency is going to be high. Okay. So you just mean that the people that want to see my ads are going to see it more often? Cool. Frequency is bad when you're using interest groups or retargeting because you're hammering those people that don't want to see it more and more and more. Frequency is not a bad thing at broad because Facebook's just saying, hey, this person wants to see your ad. And okay, cool. I'll let them. Yeah. What if my frequency is an 8 over a 3-month period? Okay, so what? They saw my ad once every 2 weeks? All right, cool. Like, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's okay. It's effective.
Yeah. And the last point I'll make here, because I keep going on these big tangents. If people ever say, well, Broad's not doing retargeting, my question to them is your frequency 1? No, it's probably 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Why? Because it's retargeting people. If it wasn't retargeting, it'd be a 1.
Right.
I've never seen an audience with a frequency of 1.0. Never seen it.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
Never. So it's retargeting.
Whoa.
Like this is the way I think about Facebook stuff. Yeah.
It's a fresh new perspective.
I appreciate that, and I understand that it is different.
Yes, it is.
And it's difficult to wrap your head around. And I will say this as a warning to anybody. Don't just stop everything you're doing right now and try to do this. It takes time. Spend a little bit of money doing this. As this gets better, start to shift your budget from what you're currently doing to this new way. If you change it overnight, your performance might look a lot worse for a couple weeks or a couple days or whatever. Because you've trained your employees to do a certain job and then you fired all of them and hired a new employee with no training and expect them to do just as well. It's not going to work. So it's a machine learning algorithm. You have to give it time to say, well, we spent so much money and time teaching you to do something. Now we're going to change your job. Right? And so if you change somebody's job, you got to give them a little bit of time to learn how to do it well.
Right. Okay. So this means that, let's say if I'm running interest retarding campaign, all that crazy stuff from start to end, I can't just shift overnight. It's more rather an incremental change, like having the small budget first and slowly upping up for the new campaign, train the new employee while keeping the old employee there, but slowly reducing their influence and balance it back.
Yeah. To use that example, as soon as your new employee is better than your absolute worst employee, fire the worst employee. If you're running 20 audiences and you have Broad in a different campaign, as soon as Broad is outperforming the worst audience in that one where you've got like 20 at ABO, turn it off. Give Broad the money. Eventually, it will absorb all of the budget of everything else. And then you're running like one campaign. Like I have an account right now where my campaign budget is like $35,000. I've got 2 ad sets. 2 to 3 ad sets a day. Right. One with all my winners, 2 tests. With dynamic creatives are really simple. I've got like 5 or 6 ads. And that's it. Legitimately, I work on that account probably an hour a week. And it was $2,000 a day like 7 months ago. Now it's $30,000 to $50,000 a day, and I don't work on it.
What? Wow.
Because I've trained my employees to not need me to micromanage them.
Right. That's true. So it's from a perspective, if I do interest and retargeting, it's more like I need to micromanage them and keep them in check because it might not be accurate at the beginning itself. And if I go broad at the start, although it's taking more time because I'm not micromanaging them, but it will pick up eventually and run it over. So
don't change everything. Take a little 5-10% of your pool, put it over into the new thing, and you're investing in the future.
Right.
Because in 2-3 months, you might only ever need that one thing, and you're able to manage that entire ad account in an hour or 2 a week.
Ooh.
And you can spend the rest of your time managing the rest of the business, which is how you actually make money.
Yeah, that's true. And I think when it comes to the amount we need to put in for ads, I think a lot of common, like especially small businesses, when they get into Facebook, they'll be like, cool, what's the minimum budget should I allocate to start running my ads? Do you have a rough sort of benchmark to look at as well?
Yeah, I think, if you had asked me this 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me this 3 years ago, I would have said, learning phase takes 25 to 50 conversions a week, which means it's 3.5 to 7 or 8 conversions a day. Let's say it's 8 and my average cost for conversion is $30. That means I need to be spending at least $240 a day to make it work. Now that is unrealistic for most people.
Yeah.
I now have changed that opinion maybe 2-3 years ago. Like I said, if you'd asked me 3 years ago, that would have been my response. I have the math all planned out. Like I can do it in the back of my head. Yeah, totally makes sense. I will now say this. Two sides. One, I don't think there's a minimum budget. You can get started at, I got students in my MBA, Facebook Ads MBA program that started like $50 a day. And are now doing hundreds a day. Totally. At broad. Like they just started there. What I will say, the other side of this is making ads work is an investment in your business. Just like if you were to make up a retail location, you'd have to go sign a lease on a store, right? To like set up and whatever else. You have a sunk cost. You're probably not going to make money that first month. You might not make money for the first 6 months. But a year or two down the line, like you might be doing really well. The point is, understand how much money you can invest in the development of your business before starting to run ads. Because if you're like, well, I can spend $50 a day for a couple of weeks, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to do something else. Don't start. Use that money on organic content. Use that money on, better videos. Use that money on a better website. Use that money on getting good at search and email and everything else. Facebook is not going to be the thing that makes or breaks you being an overnight millionaire. What it's going to do is it's ultimately just going to turn up the volume on the existing business you have. If you have a business that doesn't make money without Facebook, when you dump a bunch of money into Facebook, you're still not going to make any money. You're just going to lose it faster. If you have a business that makes money, when you put money into Facebook, in a certain amount of time, you're going to start making money faster. But it's a business amplification tool. So if you're good, it's going to make you really good. If you're bad, you're going to lose money even faster. But you have to have all the other stuff in together. Like, I wouldn't do Facebook ads first. Like, get your organic marketing down. Get your DMs together. Get your email flow together. Make sure your landing page is good. Set up some search. Do all those other things when we're talking about email, like you might make 100 to 1. Search might make 10 to 1. Great. Make enough money there that you can now invest that money into Facebook to turn up the rest of the business. Maybe with doing all of that stuff, you're starting to earn an extra $100 a day. Let's say it's that for the purpose of this conversation. Maybe you put $50 a day into Facebook and you put 50 in your pocket, knowing that in a month, a week, 6 months, whatever it is, that $50 a day on Facebook might be 1,000. Probably a week's a bit aggressive to go from 50 to 1,000. Let's take that off the table. That's not a realistic goal. But the point is, use the revenue that you have to invest in other solutions to amplify what you're doing. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't buy a Ferrari to go grocery shopping, right? That's just a waste of money. So my point is just, it's something along those lines. And I think if you start to run a good business, you're going to be making more money. At the end of the day, if your business is bad, putting money into Facebook ads is just going to tell everybody how bad your business is. And you're going to fail faster. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing for you to fail faster so that you learn your lessons and you start the next idea. Because it's probably one idea out of 5, one idea out of 10 that's actually successful. And if your first idea isn't good, I hope that you fail hard and fast and learn from it. Because, it's probably going to be your third or fourth one that's going to really be the big home run for you.
Right.
And that's an unfortunate truth, but that's the truth of it.
It's a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's very necessary for brand business owners out there that are listening, or even just new marketers, before they're considering to go into Facebook like these fundamentals is needed for you to kickstart before you go on and dive into the nitty-gritty part. And I totally agree that, knowing how much you can afford. And I'm just wondering, as a brand owner from my end, let's say, okay, I want to go into Facebook ads and I approach you as an agency for you to help me run ads. What sort of factors do you use to evaluate and assess whether or not they are ready for Facebook ads? I think that is the key point that makes it like hard for us as marketers and for brand owners to determine if it's a right channel fit.
Yeah. I think one of the first things that there's a couple of numbers I want to know.
Yeah.
Number one is, do you know your LTV of your customer? Like, what's the lifetime value of your customer? Another number that I want to know is, how much does it cost for you to produce your product?
COGS, right?
Yes, COGS. So what that's going to give me is, how much can I afford to spend to acquire a customer? So for instance, if my lifetime value is $100 and it costs me $20 to make a thing, as long as I spend less than $80 to sell that thing, I've made money.
True.
So I need to know what that number is. Otherwise, it's like, well, did I get a positive ROAS? I don't know. Like, if my LTV is $100, but I sell my thing for 50, but I know that average person is going to buy 2-3 times. Maybe I have a ROAS of 0.6, but I'm doubling my money. Like, that could easily be true. Because, like, if I know I'm going to get a second or third sale off of that person, I don't need to profit on the first one. And then people will say, well, we're really cash strapped. We can't afford that. Well, my argument is, can you go a month or two? Because maybe the person that buys in the first week buys again 4 or 5 weeks later. Well, in your second month, you're starting to get free money. Right? You're making sales that are coming in. Right? That LTV is maturing. Now, obviously, every customer journey, every brand is different.
Yeah.
But I want to know that number. That gives us something we call PSM, profitable scaling margin. Like, so if I'm getting, say I have $80 is what I can afford, and I'm making sales for 40. Theoretically, I could double my spend. And if I made no more extra sales, I'd still break even. And if I'm not making any extra sales, but I'm getting a lot more traffic to my store, odds are I'm making sales because of email and search and direct organic. I'm probably making money someplace that Facebook's not taking credit for. So that's the first thing that I want to know, is those numbers. And then the second thing is, very importantly, something we call runway. What is your runway? And what I mean by that is, how much can you say you're like, I've got $5,000, and when it runs out, I'm done. Okay. You spend $100 a day. You have 50 days to make it. Okay, got it. Well, what if over that 50 days you sell something at a profit? Well, now that $5,000 might, say you sell $2,000 worth of product. Well, now that $5,000 isn't the end of your money, right? Because you made 2 of it back. So now it's like, well, okay, well, I can go a little bit longer, and I can go a little bit longer, right? So if it's $100 a day and I make 2,000, I can actually go to 70 days instead of 50, right? Because I now have 7,000. So what is that runway? And your goal is basically, before that runway runs out, can you get to a point where it gets bigger instead of getting smaller? If you can get more time, right? So if every day you're making $200 and you can afford to spend $100, and that happens on, say, day 35, where you only have 15 days left.
Yeah.
Well, now on day 36, you actually have 16 days left. Every new day, you're actually gaining a day on the calendar because you have more, you're making more money than you're losing, right?
Yeah.
Figure out that runway. You have a very clear idea of how to make your decisions. Because, oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to try it out for a week. Can you afford to take a week-long risk? Maybe, maybe not. And when you start to figure that stuff out, how do you make your runway bigger? Make sales for more than you're spending. Maybe that means that Facebook isn't the right move right away. But if I spend money on Facebook and I know like I've got a month to turn this thing around, cool. I've got 45 days. Because you might think, well, after a month, I'm going to run out of money. But if you made any money, now that month might be a month and a half. And if 15 days later, it's like, oh, actually, I have 2 weeks later, I've got 3 weeks of runway left. Eventually, it's not going to be when do you run out of money, but when do you start spending more? And that's the problem everybody wants to have. So those are the two things that I care about the most. And honestly, I think very few business owners know almost any of that. Yeah. And I think that's why they fail.
It's common.
To be completely honest.
I've got an example where one client has a lifetime value worth of $10,000, let's say. And they were telling me okay, because it's a service, technically there's no cost involved, but technically it's their time, but let's assume zero cost. And I will give you $3,000 per month budget to run. And so if you are the marketer, what would be your thoughts on that?
All right, give me these numbers one more time. Say it again.
So let's say I have a lifetime value of $10,000, and okay. I will give you, instead of, let's say I will give you $2,000 because I'm new to Facebook. I wanted to test the waters per month. So I want results, a 2-to-1 ROI at the first month. And besides the 2K, I will be also adding in 2K ads, 2K, as an agency, I'll charge 2K extra. Would you say it's a good deal to take on?
I don't think so. And the reason I would say no is because I don't think that runway is long enough for me to really make something work. And my point is, I don't just have to pay for the ad spend. Yeah. Part of that COGS is now going up because you have to pay for me. Right? So at that point and again, money is always relative. I get it. But $2,000, if $2,000 is going to make or break me.
Yeah.
And let's say that product costs $20. So that's 100 sales. That's a pretty short window where I've got to be right pretty early. Or, I'd rather have a 90-day timeline. If you can give me $3,000 over 90 days versus $2,000 over 30, I'll take that every single day. Because that's $1,000 a month. Where now maybe I make one sale every 2 days in that first week.
Yeah.
Maybe I make one sale a day the second week. By the end of the first month, I'm making 1 or 2 sales a day. My runway's getting shorter, right?
Yeah.
But maybe by the end of the second month, I'm making 3 sales a day and breaking even. By the end of that third month, maybe I'm making 3 or 4 sales a day and I'm starting to profit. When time is your enemy, it's really, really hard to take that on because ultimately you have to be right and you have to be right early. And the honest truth is, I'm willing to admit that I'm probably wrong on what ad is going to be the best. I'm probably wrong on how we're going to need to do things. And also your business is, even if you're successful, probably isn't set up to properly monetize Facebook style traffic. Maybe your business is great because every customer you've had so far is somebody that was looking specifically for you. It was inbound sales. And you're like, we close 90% of people that come knocking on our door. And as soon as you go knocking on doors, you close 5% of them. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So your business might not be set up to legitimately handle what we call growth and acquisition efforts. So I'd rather take 3 months at lower money, knowing that gives me a better chance to still be in business with you afterwards. And that to me is far more important.
Right.
because I'm ultimately playing the long game. Like, I want you to just stick around. I'd rather make that investment. I'd rather take that hit and know that in the future we're going to be working together on a really healthy business. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think also, just as a complete side note, so human psychology. Yeah. If somebody's giving me $2,000 and that's going to be the reason that their dream fails or succeeds, I know that person's going to be emailing me every day. I know I'm going to have to talk to them and explain to them everything. And the honest truth is, those first weeks are going to be complete luck. Like, maybe our ads hit the right people. Maybe they don't. Maybe that web page converts cold traffic. Maybe it doesn't. And if anything goes wrong, I now have to babysit this person whose livelihood depends on me getting lucky. And that's just a situation that I have taken before. That is very difficult to, it's very difficult when your interpersonal relationships with clients are basically, you didn't get lucky and now they've got to reevaluate their dreams. Like, that's tough.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very common for small sort of, let's say just agencies dealing with clients that are not very well versed in these numbers. And they just hope that, they're out of money. They only have $2,000 left. They wanted to get a customer worth lifetime value of $10,000 and they needed the sale like within the month, like right now.
Yeah.
And they just ask, and some agencies just took it, They're like, why not?
Yeah. Somebody will say, yeah, we can do that. And then hopefully they deliver. Yeah. Somebody will say yes. The thing is, if that person wins, great. If they don't win, that sucks. And the honest truth is, those first few wins is way more luck than it is strategy.
Right.
I don't want a couple wins. I want the situation where in 90 days, we can make 2 sales a month, 3 sales. Like, in 90 days, we're setting this thing up that you are profitable and we can count on it.
Yeah.
Whether that is 1 sale of the 10,000 a month, because we're getting enough people into our site that we're able to do better at emailing them or getting the lead flow together or getting our DMs together. Like, there's more time. There's more repetition. There's more opportunity. I'll default to that every day of the week, even if it means less money, because 6 months from now, we're going to be best friends making money like together. I'll invest in that with my time and effort much more times. And the honest truth is, it might fail. But as soon as you get 1 or 2 wins there, you're golden.
Right. That's true. I think it's a good one for people to know as well, that you need to be clear about your runway, how long you can sustain yourself, because Facebook might not be a necessity, but rather a luxury to afford. You will put that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Right, great. Because I think a lot of small businesses, they heard of Facebook. It's a brand new cool kid in the block, and they thought it was a necessity to get sales in. They were desperate. And we just sell them the dream. And they're like, why not take it? It's got 100 ROAS, 20 ROAS, based on that, And speaking of which, you've been a huge advocate over how ROAS is absurd. And you talked about PSM is better than ROAS. So to all readers who are, maybe to explain those that are very new towards the concept, like in terms of ROAS, all they heard is I put $10 in and I got the sale worth 1,000. So that means I got a huge ROAS. Yeah. Is that good? How is that? Like, let's use a Nissan example. How would you explain to people who are new?
Yeah, I will say this.
Yeah.
The concept of attribution, which I think is nonsense. It's basically saying, let's use real world examples.
Yeah.
If you go, let's use the car dealership, right? Now, not everybody's bought a car in their life, but let's just use that example. If you go to a car dealership to buy a car, did you make the purchase because of the salesperson?
Ooh.
Like, when you walked into that Nissan dealership, Was it the person who was lucky enough to shake your hand when you walked in? And they put you in the car for the test drive? Are they the reason you just spent, in this case for the Sentra, like a $25,000 car? Or was there a million other things that went into that choice? Like, oh, I saw the TV commercials and my friends had one and I did a little bit of research on myself. Like, no customer journey. I'm not saying no because I'm sure there's one, but whatever. Like, very, very small customer journeys are, I saw an ad and I bought the very first time.
Right.
And the reason that matters is to say, the reason we look at data is for the actionability of the insight. And what I mean by this is, cool, you got a 10x ROAS, right? Or 100x ROAS, whatever the number is. Great. What am I going to do with that information? Odds are I'm like, oh, I'm going to spend more money behind this ad.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're going to give that salesperson that answered the door a pay raise because you walked in ready to buy. Like, that doesn't really make sense. So instead, well, it's not the ad, but I'm going to give it to the ad set. Is that ad set closing? Does that ad set have a frequency of 1? No. So it's retargeting people. Do you have multiple ad sets? Maybe those people are being retargeted from one ad set to another. Do you have search? Right. Do you have a website? Has anybody ever bought your product before? Well, the answer to all those questions is probably yes. Every one of those things devalues your ability to look at ROAS and make a good decision. I'll put it another way. If you've been to my site a couple of times and I got you in my retargeting, right?
Yeah.
You've been in my site, and we're retargeting, right? Now, maybe you've also searched for my business in the last day or two. Maybe you saw an ad on a Thursday. You saw an ad on a Monday, kind of remember it, maybe not. You saw it again on a Wednesday, kind of remember it, maybe not. And then on, like, you sign up for an email and you search for it on Friday, and Saturday morning an email blast goes out and you open it up and you click on it and you buy. Attribution would say email, search, and the Facebook ad all get credit. You made 3 sales. But we know that's objectively not true. You only sold one thing.
Yeah.
So now ROAS doesn't mean anything because who gets credit? So then it's like, well, this person gets a little bit of this credit and this person gets a little bit of that credit. Is that situation, does everybody always behave that way? No. So now you're trying to use a really low quality data point to make decisions around what ad am I going to spend more to in what audience? And at the end of the day, we know that those audiences don't matter at all anyway. So in that way, ROAS is a really bad number. What matters way more than that is PSM. And this will be the last thing I can really maybe talk about. But PSM, profitable scaling margin, is just lifetime value divided by the cost to acquire a sale and the cost of goods. How much did it cost to acquire a sale? How much money did you spend in marketing today? And how many sales did you make? That's your blended overall cost per acquisition of a sale today. And that's good to know, like, because that accounts for email and search and Facebook. And ultimately what that really means is, what's the best blend of investment between all of those platforms? Yeah. But I got to get going, so maybe we can cover one more thing, if you got it on the list, just so we don't get too long here.
It's okay, I can cut it out. It's all right.
No, that's okay. Like, just let's do one more. Let's do one more, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah. All right. So I'm wondering for the LTV as well, how could we guarantee the lifetime value within the PSM formula? Because you've mentioned that people have different buying behaviors, and if you have different products, and how would we be able to make sure the equation can be applied on all scenarios, especially if you want to promote different products, shifting different things,
That's a great question. The more products we promote, the harder it is. Which kind of begs the question, how many products do we need to promote? That $50,000, $70,000 a day thing I was talking about, with the $200K to $2 million, I'm promoting one product.
Yeah.
I am not promoting a lot. I'm promoting the product that is most likely to get somebody to buy a second time. Because I know I'm going to get I know I'm going to get a positive LTV situation.
Right.
Generally speaking, somebody that buys that product probably is going to buy once or twice more. Great. Every one of those additional transactions, I can try to improve the AOV of. And I can improve my product quality so maybe they come back and buy 3 or 4 times instead of 2 or 3. But I know every dollar I spend to go and make a sale is going to bring me back a profit over that customer journey. On average, against all my customers. And the easiest way of doing that is just saying, okay, of everybody that bought more than once, what's the product most people bought the first time? That's probably the product most likely to get somebody to buy a second time. That makes sense. So let me just sell that one. And then I don't have to figure out this math for everything. Because that's the only one I'm actually spending money to acquire the sale. And if you can figure that out, it's what we call a hero product. Nike had the Jordans. They advertised the Jordans everywhere. People bought a lot more than just Jordans from Nike. Right? McDonald's had the Big Mac. They sell a lot more things than just the Big Mac.
True.
Like Coca-Cola doesn't advertise Diet Coke nearly as much as just like, the regular red bottle. But like, okay, I know the brand, I'm going to go buy whatever. Like, they're not advertising Coke Zero, caffeine free or whatever, like weird like version exists, right? Like, they're just selling you Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
So the point of it is, even Nissan, we were just selling the Sentra. A lot of people bought an Altima. The point is, what is the thing that you can make money on? Sell that. Because all you're really trying to do is make a profit. Now, maybe down the road, you'll get smart enough and have enough experience to realize, well, something else gets me a better profit. Maybe we switch to selling that thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's your best-selling product. Again, going back to the Jordans, they sold way less as overall sales of Jordan sneakers versus everything else Nike ever sold. Jordan sneakers, small percentage. But it's probably 80-90% of all the ads that they ran. So my point is, when people come to your store, they might not buy the thing you're advertising.
Yeah.
Figure out how to get somebody that's interested in what you sell into your store. That's your job. After that, it's the website's job to get them to be your salesperson.
Right.
So, yes, that math can get ridiculously complicated when you're selling 10, 15, 20 things. So don't.
Yeah, I was thinking of what happens to those big accounts that you're handling. Like,
yeah.
Wouldn't they have to figure out every single product, and that complicates the entire formula?
Absolutely. But even think about it like huge brands, like the department store, right?
Yeah.
When you see a commercial for a department store, they're selling what? 3, 4 things in that commercial? Like they're selling you, maybe it's fall. And so they're selling you like a bigger jacket or like a thing to clean up the leaves in your yard. They're not selling you 1,000 products. They're just getting you to go to the store. What is the thing when I get you interested about this, you're more likely to leave with money in my pocket rather than yours? In a way where I know you're probably going to come back and buy again.
So
that's what we should be promoting.
Foot in the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Get your foot in the door in the way that is most likely to get that person to want to come back and pay you a second time.
Right.
Figure that out.
That makes sense.
And that runway we were talking about gets a lot longer really quick because, I'm about to run out, and you wake up and those people came back and they bought a second time. Now you didn't have to spend money to get that sale. So that runway gets bigger real fast.
Right.
And that's the trick. Like every 8-figure business I've scaled in the last like 5 or 6 years, which is, I think I'm on like my 5th one now. That's kind of the trick is let's just sell the thing that's going to get somebody to want to buy and is most likely to get them to come back and buy a second time. That's the easiest way of getting them to give you money. At the end of the day, I don't care what I'm selling. If I give you $1 and I put it out there in the world, I want it to come home and bring some of its friends. And if it takes a couple of days for it to bring back some other friends with it, that's fine. And then that runway lets you know how long do you have until like you need that money back.
Right.
And then all the other things we talked about make Facebook easier to get to that place.
That makes sense. So in short is figure out what products that is most likely to get a customer the foot in the door, use PSM to determine that, and use it as a benchmark to run your Facebook ads because you can't guarantee anyone to buy any products. You will try your best to get it in, but what happens after should be other components that should come into play, not just 100% relying on Facebook.
Yeah, you got to run a business. And if you're going to run a business, you got to understand what happens after somebody walks in the door. And that is not the job of the Facebook ad. Build a better website, build a better business model, do better customer service, whatever it is. And you're going to be a lot better off in the end. Or you can try to hack Facebook left, right, and center, work 5, 6, 7 days a week, working 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and you're probably going to be out of business in a few months.
Ooh, it's not a good use of time as well. Probably.
Yeah.
Could have done other things like chatting with you.
You could have enjoyed life, or you could have made your website better, or you could have made your product better. You could have been on the phone with your actual customer service calls, or taken a vacation, or slept. You could have done literally anything else with your time. So figure out a way. At the end of the day, Facebook is a really smart machine that amplifies a business. The best way to use it is to set it up so that it doesn't need you to succeed. And your job is to make sure that it gets people into your store that want to buy products more than once. That's the overall general, if I can summarize this last hour and 20 minutes into a phrase, that would be it. And the rest of it is just how do I get that done? Yep.
And I think it's a good pause as well. I think our readers will probably be warmed out by all the basic, just to get through the basics of how Facebook works. So this marks the part 1 where me and Charlie talked about how you should understand the basics of Facebook. So hope the newcomers and also business owners who are looking to get into Facebook have a good idea before they even decide to go into Facebook. So thank you so much and see you next time.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the internet, man. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it.